I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Arakwal people of the Bundjalung Nation, and pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. Are you ready to win at the game of life? Well, throw out that rulebook and get down to the business of being the best and most authentic version of you. Welcome to the Human Design Podcast. We're changing the rules around success, abundance, purpose, love, and life, where we're creating a planet where everyone can thrive in a world that loves and supports each other. I'm your host, Emma Dunwoody, a qualified master coach, human design expert, podcaster, and entrepreneur that is living the life of my dreams, breaking all the rules while doing it, making a huge impact, and living my design and manifesting miracles on the daily. Join me as I break down and simplify everything you need to live in alignment with your human design, teach you how to recondition your unconscious mind for greatness, and to take back your power so you can manifest your heaven on earth and serve the rest of the planet at the same time. It's time to give up the fear and step into your highest potential, to reach for the stars, to know and live your greatness. It's what you deserve, and it's what the planet really needs from you. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Remember Angie Lee from episode 346? You know the one, the highly successful reflector that has mastered marketing. She's mastered entrepreneurship and business, speaking, and so much more. Well, Angie and her boxer and entrepreneur brother Mike have created a line of CBD products to help people heal physical pain and anxiety. Angie actually sent me some of her sleepy gummies and CBD oil drops back before I interviewed her, and they were an absolute game changer for me. Since going through early menopause, my sleep had never been as good as it had been before I went through it. But taking their sleepy gummies has been a game changer, and I feel like my sleep is finally back and I'm feeling better than ever. In fact, funny story, Taylor actually tried out their out-of-office THC gummies while she was over there in the US, because obviously she's not allowed to bring them home to me in Australia. And she was not only like super chilled out, really it helped her mind slow down and be pretty quiet, which is not very often for her. And she managed to sleep for 12 hours straight. So they were super good. Soul CBD products are designed to address physical pain and anxiety, as these are the challenges that Angie and Mike understand firsthand and struggled themselves with for a long time until creating these products to heal themselves. Their promise to you is that with Soul CBD products, that firstly, wellness never tasted so good. And all their products are scientifically formulated to maximize bioavailability and effectiveness. Everything is grown in the US, organically farmed and gluten-free, and they triple test all their batches for potency and safety. Soul CBD are the real deal, made by amazing humans with a sincere mission and high standards to deliver quality and results. So if you want to get your hands on some of these beauties, then follow the link in the show notes for more information. Hey, and welcome to today's episode. Now, today I'm going to talk about emotional authority. And before you hit pause, if you are not an emotional authority, the odds are that 50% of the people in your life will be. So I can guarantee there will be a benefit here for you as well. So I want to dive deeper into emotional authority today. And I want to look at it also from a spiritual perspective and a behavioural perspective. And to be honest, this little line 3 has been having quite the experience with her emotional authority over the last couple of weeks. And what it's caused me to do is to recommit to my emotional authority and really understanding it, but also taking it to the next level. I actually had a private client of mine this morning give me a demonstration of something very cool she does within her business. And one of the statements she said was that today, like as I am recording this, and keep in mind, I already had this written down to do, and this is the experience I'm having, that today is the day that I am going to begin a new relationship with my emotions. And it brought me to tears because I have been experiencing something in my life that is causing a great deal of emotion. Now, it has recently become super clear to me that so much of that emotion is a trauma response because I've been experiencing trauma, and this is the way that I have dealt with this specific type of trauma since I was, well, a baby, to be honest. And when I sat down with my coach on Saturday morning after having a very challenging week, and my emotions just riding the emotional roller coaster, after explaining to him the week that I'd had, he just looked at me and he said, "Emma, what are you doing? You are such a spiritual person. What are you doing spending so much time down in all of those bullshit stories?" And it dawned on me, oh my God, this is the last place in my life where I haven't fully taken responsibility, where it's almost like part of me has been so resigned and felt so powerless that I have forgotten that I am actually powerful. And this is a message for you. If you're listening to this, I'm guessing you needed to hear it. So the question becomes, well, how do I step into my power? And one of the biggest challenges that I've had personally is my emotions over the last 7 days. So, of course, the beautiful human design gives me so much to work with because I understand how my emotional wave works. I have the 40-37, so I have the ratchet, where I kind of get irritated and then I can let it go, and then it rises to something more, but I can let it go, and then by the third time I'm kind of losing it, whatever losing it is to me or in whatever situation it is. And all of these little pieces, and these are all, by the way, for my listeners, long-time listeners, these are all external clues, because what life is showing me, what the soul of the world is showing me, is the solution. It's showing me what my soul wants to grow into. It's showing me where my soul is being blocked by my mind. So as an emotional authority, I am super lucky because I am here on the planet to learn how to be emotionally wise, because I am a person that is going to be up and down and roundabout. And I have a gift because it's only my emotions that I really deal with. I have a gift of being able to hold a lot of space for a lot of emotion. So let's talk about emotional authority. Let's talk about, okay, well, if this is my authority and this is meant to be my superpower, what do I do when I feel like it is an out of control bus? How do I actually rein it back in? Like, am I meant to feel my feelings? Am I meant to think positive? Am I meant to change my focus? Am I meant to allow the tears? What am I meant to freaking do? And when we talk about, well, we need emotional clarity, what does that actually mean, especially when I'm experiencing this up and down and roundabout? Like, being in a yacht in the worst seas. The first thing you want to understand about emotional authority is that this is a mechanical wave, okay? So we are actually experiencing the up, the down, and the in the middle as a part of a mechanic of our energy. So we can't get rid of it. We can't stop it. We can't even control it. But what we can do is that we can learn to surf it. We can go with it. We can stop resisting it. We can stop trying to manipulate it, and we can learn to surf it. And when we do, is when we start to be able to really connect to source, to our heart, to our inner wisdom, because it means that we can always stay connected to that higher knowing within us, even when the veil of emotion is high or low. Meaning that when we start to really get to know our emotional wave, then we can always be connected to higher guidance, our soul, our heart, God, universe, source, whatever you want to call it, and be okay with the highs, the lows, and in the middle. All right. So the first thing that is very, very practical is, am I trying to repress my emotions, or am I trying to indulge my emotions? Now, this week, something happened that I resisted hard. Like, I was so not okay with that moment. And honestly, I emotionally threw all my toys out of the cot. And I did, a couple of days later, understand that it was a trauma response. However, I still want to take responsibility for that, because once I become aware of the trauma response, then I can do something about it. Then I can take responsibility for it. Then I can choose something different, and I can practice something different until it becomes my new habit. So for me personally, I was indulging my emotions. I was going through a very big shift. I was having a lot of therapy, a lot of spiritual healing, all sorts of stuff going on. So I was moving a lot of energy, a lot of emotion, and there were a lot of tears, and that was okay. That was fine, because that was just the energy moving. However, on reflection, and for my emotional friends out there, sometimes reflection is the best place that we learn these things. Like, try not to be all over self-coaching yourself when you're in the moment, because it's hard and you probably just end up criticizing and judging yourself. But on reflection, for me, I realized that my emotion shifted from a release into indulgence, where all of a sudden my thinking, and yes, it went back to an old pattern. That pattern was also a part of all of this trauma, where I catastrophized. I was catastrophizing about things, and all of a sudden I went into this self-pity spiral, and all of this thinking that, honestly, I have not thought that way for the longest time. Again, it was all triggered by a trauma response. So the point is that now I know, what have I been doing differently? Because it's not like my emotion's going to go away completely, but what it does mean is that I'm aware of it. I'm accepting it. I'm accepting that I'm going to be emotional. However, it is time to create a new relationship with my emotions. Now, I want to give you an example of repression. If you are someone who represses your emotions. So if you repress your emotions, when you are faced with challenge, maybe your trauma is triggered, maybe something else is going on, then what you in fact do is, instead of feeling your emotions, you shove them down and you're like, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, which, I've got to be honest, is my other go-to. I haven't done it for many years, but yes, I've done that as well. So you want to pay attention to, oh my goodness, I'm not letting myself feel my feelings. Because think about our emotional authority as this wave of energy that's constantly radiating out from us. And at the end of the day, this is actually where our authority sits. So when we can sit and center and be still in our emotional wave, then our emotional clarity is going to be so much greater. So, how do we improve our relationship with our emotional wave so that we're not indulging and we're not repressing? Well, number one, we want to have a look back at the actual patterns. What happened right before you threw your toys out of the cot, or right before you, I'm fine, repressed it? Have a look at those triggers, because once you start to become aware of those, then you can practice a different response. You can be aware of when it starts. The moment you become conscious, you can choose something different. One of the things I'm really aware of, being, a very spiritual person, a behavioral coach, being into human design, is that we kind of have this really, when you have a foot in each camp, of course I do because I'm a manifesting generator, I have to have a bit of everything. You've got to be really aware that no one thing is 100% correct all the time. So a lot of people in the healing space, they're like, you have to feel all your emotions. Whereas in, let's say, the performance and coaching space, people are like, no, you have to create a different identity and you've got to think positive. Everyone is right sometimes and everyone is not right sometimes, okay? So it's about taking full responsibility. So for me, in my situation, I've realized that I was allowing an old emotional pattern to really take over my emotions. And the result of that is that I actually moved away from my intuition, from my inner authority, instead of closer to my inner authority. And what I ended up doing was working my ass off to learn all of these things and to work all this stuff out and understand myself better, when really what perhaps I needed in the moment was just to go a little bit slower, to trust my intuition, to stop trying to make things happen, move things along, and instead just let the things show themselves for me to respond to. So here's a couple of tips for my emotional authorities, and then second, I'm going to say a couple of tips for our non-emotional authorities. So if you are an emotional authority, please pay attention to the patterns that peak and trough your emotions. And have they become a habit of overindulging or repressing as a response to a pattern or a trauma, or what is a secondary gain? What are you getting out of that? Then I want you to actually get to know your wave. Maybe you're an HDX member. You're going to go straight in there. We've got so much on authority. You go in there, you learn about your emotional authority. Then you learn about our class on the specifics of each authority, and you really sit with it. You say, okay, I'm going to give myself 3 weeks. I'm going to notice my highs. I'm going to write it down. I'm going to see what I'm doing. I'm going to notice my lows. I'm going to write it down. I'm going to see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to be there with it. Because then once you get to know what maybe triggers the highs or triggers the lows or triggers the indulgence or triggers the suppression, then you have the power to change it. Now, for my non-emotional beings, if you are the partner or best friend or someone close to an emotional being, for God's sake, do not tell them to stop being so emotional. Because oftentimes once our waves get going and we are already on the runway of overindulgence, it's really hard to turn that ship around. But in a loving way, hold space for them. And if you are invited, if you have something to respond to, if you're a manifestor, you can initiate. If you are a reflector and it feels correct, then just gently invite them to become more aware of the mechanics of their wave. Okay? So as I said, I know for me personally, I've got the 40-37. Mine is the ratchet. If I get pissed off about something and I have a bit of an upset, there's probably going to be a couple more upsets ending in a losing it. And look, in most areas of my life and for many years, I haven't. I'm a very emotionally balanced person in most areas of my life. But the thing that I want to say is you have to wait to be invited in. You have to wait to have something to respond to. But honestly, I love being surrounded by non-emotionals that have permission to help me navigate. Because often when you're in an emotional low, the thing that is so important to understand is that you can be so far from the truth with a capital T, so far from your connection to your authority. So it's important that if there's a way that you can become consciously aware of that, if you have a friend, like a safe friend that you can talk to and say, can you just help me with that? Get to know your particular wave. Again, if you're an HDX, you can learn about whatever wave you have in depth and get to know it. Because at the end of the day, our emotions create our reality. So anything that is in alignment for us, anything that's correct for us to have a stellar relationship with our emotions is a freaking good thing. And one of the other things, and it's really interesting because this has just shown up in my life in all sorts of ways, and with many people who don't even know human design or that I'm an emotional being, is it's time for all of us emotional beings to really think about up-leveling our relationship to our emotional wave. It's time to show ourselves, more than anything, but everyone around us, that although we are always in a mechanical wave, we can also be emotionally balanced. And I have so much evidence of that in my life now that I know that to be true. And I know many emotional people that they have a lot more emotional balance because they've done the work. So, my beautiful emotional authorities, I see you. I get it. And maybe you have the best relationship and your wave is easy to navigate. Maybe you've got the 659 that isn't so much of a big deal. But for those of you that really find yourself repressing or overindulging, please just take the time to get to know it better. Take the time to be still and be able to sit with the emotional wave and center into yourself. Maybe a heart coherence meditation. Maybe it's whatever it is that gets you back in your body, and learning to accept where you are emotionally right now and knowing that it's not true. None of it is 100% true. And a lot of it is like 80% untrue. So just getting to know so you can sit in your emotions and be completely unaffected by them in an unresourceful way is what I really mean. You want to be affected by them when you get to feel all the feels. Well, that's all I've got for you today. I trust that you've got what you needed from today's episode, and I so look forward to having you on the next one. Bye for now. Thanks everyone for being here all the way to the end of the podcast. I hope you got lots of value out of it. I certainly had a lot of fun doing it. Could I please ask that you share this podcast with friends if you found it valuable? And also, bonus points, could you leave a review for me as well on Apple? It would be greatly appreciated. If at any point you would like to be on the podcast or you've got questions that you'd like me to discuss on the podcast, by all means get on my socials and DM me. Everything you need is there in the show notes. Have an awesome day. Bye for now.